Magnificat anima mea Dominum,
et exsultat spiritus meus in Deo salutari meo.
Welcome to the new episode of the theme St. Teresa of Avila, Mother of Interior Souls. In continuation of the fourth episode, I would like to introduce to you St. Teresa's books of Way of Perfection, Interior Castle, Foundation, and Letters. The book of Way of Perfection contains St. Teresa's most practical pages. She says that she has a rough style in this book, but that rough style has brought her into the first rank of Spanish prose writers. St. Teresa wrote the book of Way of Perfection not at the command of her superiors or spiritual directors, but at the earnest entreaty of the nuns of St. Joseph's Avila, the first convent of her foundation. The sisters came to know that their mother foundress had already written a book which contained a good deal of instruction about prayer. As the nuns had no access to this book, St. Teresa obtained leave from her confessor at the time, Father Banus, to begin a new book which should treat of certain things about prayer for the use of her daughters in religion. The book was begun at the end of 1565 or early in the year following, and probably finished it in 1566. The book has come down to us in two manuscripts. The first, preserved in the library of the Escorial, has 73 very short chapters. Perhaps a chapter may merely have indicated the amount that she wrote at a sitting, or the amount that she thought the Avilan nuns capable of taking in at once. But when St. Teresa had made many other foundations and could not keep in continual personal touch with all her daughters, she began to think that the book which she had written for them could do with revision. It was then that she sat down to rewrite the whole book, and this is the second redaction with 42 longer chapters. It is in the possession of the OCD nuns of Valladolid. So it is known as a Valladolid redaction. It is no mere amended version, but a new and free treatment of the theme with the original manuscript as a guide. The second redaction represents St. Teresa at her maturest and best. The most recent and best Spanish editions give both redactions in full. E. Alison Pierce translated in English the second redaction, interpolating in the text the outstanding passages omitted from the first redaction, indicating them by italic type, and giving all other variants from the first redaction in footnotes. The collected works of St. Teresa of Avila, translated by Kieran Kavanagh OCD and Ottilio Rogris OCD, gives only the translation of the second redaction. Hence, For a comprehensive understanding of the mind of Saint Teresa, Alison Pierce seems preferable. The division of the book. Chapters 1 and 3 give the reasons which moved the saint to found the Discalced Carmelite order for the nuns. Chapter 2 deals with the vow of poverty. The rest of the book can be divided with a fair degree of exactness into 3 parts. Part 1, chapters 4 to 15. Here we have the treatment of the virtues of mutual love, detachment, and humility. Here she uses the allegory of chess game to illustrate her mind. Part 2, chapters 16 to 26. It deals with discursive prayer or meditation. Chapter 3, Part 3, chapters 27 to 42. This is a commentary on the Lord's Prayer interspersed with exposition of some of the degrees of prayer. Now we shall see the book of Interior Castle. The profoundest and most deeply spiritual of Saint Teresa's longer verse is the Interior Castle, written in letters of gold, as her readers say. And this is the origin of the book. Teresa had been talking with Gratian about some spiritual matter which she remembered having treated in her book of life. But this second draft of life was with the Inquisition. Seizing an obvious opportunity, Father Gratian told her, "Well, as we cannot get at that, why not recall what you can of it and of other things and write a fresh book, expound the teaching in a general way without saying to whom the things that you describe have happened." On advice from Father Gratian, she also consulted the theologian Velasquez, who also asked her to start the work. On Trinity Eve, June 1st, 1577, these ideas suddenly crystallized into a vivid picture through a vision. A most beautiful globe made in the shape of a castle and containing 7 mansions, in the 7th and the innermost of which was the King of Glory in greatest splendor, illumining and beautifying them all. The book was composed at a speed which she never equaled before or since. She finished the work in 3 months in the year 1577. The Interior Castle gives a survey of the contemplative life in the fuller form in which she had come to know it since the beginning of her autobiography, and it might therefore be described as an amplification of the chapters on prayer, which constitute, as it were, an opuscule set in the framework of that book. This illustrates the superiority of the Interior Castle over the opuscule on the waters. The autograph is preserved in the convent of the Discalced Carmelite nuns of Seville, Spain. This is the best available work on mysticism ever written in the history of Christian literature. Now the content of the book. The first 3 mansions deal with the prayer of meditation or discursive prayer. The 4th mansions with the prayer of quiet. The 5th mansions with the prayer of symbol union, metaphorically, allegorically called spiritual proposal. The 6th mansions with the spiritual betrothal or intense union, and the 7th mansions with the transforming union or spiritual marriage. Later, we will have a detailed study of these degrees of prayer. The Book of Foundations. This book was written at the command of our spiritual directors. It is a narrative of the happenings involved in each foundation of her convents. She started the work in 1576 and ended in 1582, the year of her death. Now we shall see the letters of Saint Teresa. She wrote 15,000 letters, but now we have with us only 468. Saint Teresa's correspondence makes up nearly one half of her known writings. Teresa wrote candidly the story of both her life and her work as foundress in the two books, Life and Foundations. Despite her openness in them, she wrote with the knowledge that they would be read by others. Her letters then exhibit even more striking candor, offering many details that were not meant for the public. In these letters, we walk with Teresa year by year, day by day, even hour by hour sometimes. Her worries, troubles and triumphs, her expressions of sadness and joy pervade these pages. Without question, we have before us a rich collection showing a heart magnanimously open to others, communicating with them on many levels, pouring itself out to the family members and religious, to friends, theologians, advisors, and to the nobility and business people. Besides having to travel, buy and sell, she was burdened with a wearisome need for fundraising. Problems sprang up over jurisdiction, stirring her to write to Rome and even to King Philip II. She had to choose prioresses, advise and comfort them, and discuss the nettlesome pros and cons often present in the selection of the new postulants, as well as doubts and about dowries and other material needs. People's health was always a disquieting concern of her. She found her letter writing more a trial than a pleasant affair. She wrote to Father Gratian, "This continual letter writing, the worry of which is killing me." She wrote to her brother Lorenzo, "I was writing till 2 in the morning, which gave me a dreadful headache. The doctor has told me I must never write after midnight, and I am not to do all my writing in my own hand." What proved painful for her has proved a treasure for us, a collection of letters that scholars consider unparalleled in Spanish literature. The letters open a new door into the fascinating world of this saint, one of the greatest women in history. Thank you.